yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this. The process.
Welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube page. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated on all of our content. You guys can check out The Process every Tuesday and Thursday right here on our YouTube page. On this episode, I wanted to talk about a couple of recruits who are verbally committed to the Tide at the moment, who other programs are trying to flip. Of course, the Tide has flipped a couple of guys in this 2021 recruiting cycle. They have been the beneficiary, I guess, on the wrong side of a flip, of course, with Drake Maye flipping his commitment to North Carolina early on in this 2021 recruiting cycle. But there are a couple of other programs who are trying to flip a couple of guys who are currently verbally committed to the Tide, and I wanted to discuss a couple of guys to just pay attention to here on The Process. But before I dive deeper into those guys, I do have a couple of recruiting updates to hit you guys with, so that is what we are going to go into next. So with that being said, let's get the process started. We are going to start these recruiting updates off with the Tide being included in a top 3 released by 2021 5-star running back Kamar Wheaton out of Texas. Of course, the Tide does not have a running back commit at the moment. Wheaton included the Tide in its top 3 along with LSU and Oklahoma. So Nick Saban and company look to be right there with one of the top running backs in the 2021 recruiting class along with LSU and the Oklahoma Sooners. Moving over to the Tide's 2021 4-star defensive back target Terrion Arnold out of Tallahassee, Florida, announcing that he will release his top school list on Friday. I expect the Tide to be in it along with a couple of SEC schools, some ACC schools, and a couple of Big Ten programs as well. So be sure to stay updated with Terrion Arnold's recruitment. We will keep you guys updated on all of that on touchdowналabama.com. I got to travel to see a couple of guys in action. One Alabama commit recently over the weekend as high school football did begin inside the state on last weekend, as I got a chance to travel to Montgomery, Alabama on Thursday to check out the Tide's 2022 4-star linebacker commit, who actually has a 4-star linebacker target, TJ Dudley, who actually has a top school list at the moment, which includes some heavy hitters. You're talking about Oregon, Auburn, Clemson, Alabama, of course, being included in that top six. Some heavy hitters are trying to pull in this impressive linebacker prospect, and I was impressed with this game. I think he has a lot of potential. Of course, there are some areas that he needs to improve on, but I think he is a kid that has some potential to be a great player at the next level. I also got a chance to check out the Tide's 2022 5-star linebacker commit, who we actually at touchdowналabama.com have decided to bump up to a 5-star in Jeremiah Alexander after watching him play in the game where Thompson beat the Oxford Yellow Jackets in the battle of the current champions in the 6A classifications and also the 7A classification, with Oxford winning the 6A championship on last season, Thompson winning it in 7A on last season as well. And it was an interesting game as Thompson did take that win. I was very impressed with Alexander. I decided, and the rest of the staff at Touchdown Alabama have decided to bump him up to a 5-star, of course, based on what he did in the game, but also based on what he did before the ball was snapped. The things that he did really helped this team win, and I wanted to break that down. I did break that down on touchdowналabama.com, why he is now listed as a 5-star on touchdowналabama.com in our own independent recruiting rankings. I also got a chance to check out the Tide's 2021 5-star athlete target, Quincy McKinstry. Once again, he is always impressive. Also checked out a couple of other potential Tide targets down the line. Of course, Money Goodwin, who has an offer from the Tide in 2021 recruiting class, but he says he is 100% in with the Auburn Tigers at the moment. But he was very impressive in here at Trustville's win over Pinson Valley on Friday. I also got a chance to see in action 2022 four-star defensive end Justice Finkley, who happens to have an offer from the Tide. He was impressive in that matchup. I did break down his game in a subscriber-only video. I will drop the link in the description of this video along with my breakdown of Jeremiah Alexander as well. Be sure to check out all of that. I also recently wrote an article breaking down who I think could be the next Tide commit. I will drop that link in the description of this video to that article. So be sure to check out all of that content. Pick up your subscription to touchdowналabama.com while you're at it. Now I am going to dive into a couple of Tide commits who other schools are really trying to push for. The first Tide commit I want to talk about here when it comes to other schools trying to push and trying to flip some Tide commits in this 2021 recruiting class here is Ian Jackson. Jackson, of course, is the four-star linebacker out of Prattville High School in Prattville, Alabama. I feel the Tigers will continue to try to push for this particular Tide commit because of Ian Jackson's ties to Auburn University. Multiple members of his family have attended the university, of course. Also, his mom is an Auburn grad and also was a member of the Auburn Tigers marching band during her time in Auburn. So their family has a lot of ties to the university and to Auburn football, as multiple members of Ian Jackson's family are Auburn Tiger fans, and I think they will, of course, make that transition if Ian Jackson keep his commitment solid to the Tide and sign with the University of Alabama on National Signing Day. In my opinion, I think Ian Jackson is 100% in with the Tide. I think he will sign his national letter of intent to the University of Alabama. That's just my opinion based on today. But I do feel the Auburn Tigers will try to stick around as long as possible, work on those family ties, work on that strong relationship that the family has with Auburn University. Kyrie Jackson is the next guy I want to talk about here. Jackson, of course, is one of the Tide's newest commits, a JUCO defensive back who was expected to play this upcoming season at East Mississippi Community College. But due to the spread of COVID-19, East Mississippi decided to hold off on their football season in the fall. But as far as Jackson is concerned, he did take a visit to Norman, Oklahoma recently. Got a chance to go to the Sooner Summit where him and a couple of other Sooner targets in the 2021 recruiting class traveled to Norman, Oklahoma and visited basically without contacting the coaching staff, of course, due to the restrictions that the NCAA has in place. But those guys were in Norman, Oklahoma recently, as the Sooners are trying to recruit some of those guys, including Jackson, as the Sooners were one of the teams that were included in his top school list before he committed to the Tide. So that is just something to pay attention to, as Kyrie Jackson is looking to keep his recruitment open at the moment. The last guy I want to discuss here is the Tide's 2021 four-star speedy wide receiver Christian Leary out of Edgewater High School in Orlando, Florida. When you look at Christian Leary's recruitment, several teams, of course, want this guy on their team, especially in the 2021 recruiting class. The team who I would pay attention to here is the team I think that will continue their hard push along with some of their commits in the 2021 recruiting class, and that team is the Florida Gators. The Tides, one of the Tides targets in the 2021 recruiting class early on was Dakota Mitchell, who is very close with Christian Leary. He once said that they were going to the same school, and he has constantly tried to recruit Leary to join him in Gainesville in the future. Leary has constantly stated he is coming to Tuscaloosa in the future. When I got a chance to talk with them when I traveled to Orlando, Florida to get an interview with Leary, he did tell me that he is 100% in with the Tide, but recruiting is fluid. It is a fluid process. Coaching staffs across the country are staying in contact with kids throughout their recruitment, even when they are verbally committed to other schools. So I'm pretty sure the Florida Gators coaching staff is in contact with Leary as well as their recruits, as they continue to not be quiet about the recruits that the Florida Gators want in this 2021 recruiting class. They're constantly recruiting guys on Twitter. If you go on Twitter, you can constantly see them recruiting guys like one of the Tide's targets here in the 2021 recruiting class in Thomashe Adelier. So, in my opinion, I don't think there's any recruit in the Tides 2021 recruiting class at the moment who is set to make a flip, but it's just something to pay attention to with recruiting being fluid. Of course, I know that a lot of the Tides 2021 commits are in contact with other schools. It is a part of the recruitment process. You want to make sure that you're evaluating all of your options. So that is what I wanted to discuss. Those three guys, of course, like I said, multiple members of the Tides 2021 recruiting class are in contact with other programs. That will do it for this episode of The Process. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated on all of our content. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. Pick up a subscription. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles. Get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue. Read our in-depth scouting reports on each Tide commit and each recruiting class. So be sure to pick up that subscription. Then head over to your app store, whether that is the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Be sure to download the Touchdown Alabama app or your edit as well. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst, Touchdown Alabama magazine.